Hello everyone, welcome to session number 6 of the Printed Circuit Board Design Principle and Practices. In our today's session, we will cover every single aspect of libraries and components creation in Altium Designer. Altium hosts a vast array of ready-made PCB component, both the manufacturer part search or vault, as well as in integrated and discrete libraries available through Altium Live resources. However, even with the rich set of resources, it's likely that at some point in the designer's career, it will be necessary to create a custom PCB component. That's why in our session today, we will go over all different aspects of library reuse and creation as well. So I will try to provide all the different tricks to reuse libraries or create libraries, starting with Altium component library types, and then we will go over the Altium component creation workflow. As usual, I like to have systematic workflow in everything I do. So I put like a component creation workflow for you to help you to create libraries, and will guide you through the process. Then we will talk about how we can reuse component from manufacturing part search panel, how we can download this component and modify it, reuse it, and so on. Next, we will talk about reusing symbols and footprints from Altium Designer legacy libraries, in addition to other libraries we might be able to find online or by different vendors. Next, there are some nice tools. They are very handy. We can use them, such as Altium Library Loader, and also there is ECAD models available on Snap EDA, Ultra Librarian, and other tools as well, or websites. And at the end, we will try to learn to create a component from scratch, meaning it's not reuse, it's just we will have to create the symbol, the footprint, and also we'll learn how to use the IPC wizards and so on. And we are still at the very beginning. Learning how to use a tool to create or simulate an electronics design is just the first step. The real knowledge comes afterward when you start learning and applying PCB design concepts and best practices with an in-depth understanding of the science behind those concepts. So stay tuned. We still have a long way to go. You will get there and shine as well, indeed. But you need to be patient and have the passion and eagerness to learn. That's all you need. On my part, I will freely and generously share my knowledge and expertise with everyone who is willing to learn. So let's get started. So what is a component? What is the definition of component in general? Component is basically a set of symbol or multiple symbols, footprint or multiple footprints, and models that completely define an electronic part from the PCB point of view. So a unified component, on the other hand, is a container, as we can see in here, storing all relevant information about the electronic parts that include PCB components, schematic symbols, simulation model, signal integrity model, general data, data sheets, supplier information, and etc. In Altium Designer specifically, the model they built their components based on is that the schematic symbol is the container that links all different model domains. So you have the footprint model domain, you have the simulation model domain, you have 3D model domain, you have signal integrity model domain, general data model domain, supply chain model domain, and all these are linked and held through the symbol in the schematic. Now, this is only the case when you have something called local libraries. It's totally different when you switch to server-based libraries, as we'll see next in the libraries type. But what we are going to create for our session today is the local-based kind of libraries, or called integrated libraries. So what kind of libraries we can find in Altium Designer? So these libraries, if you see, this is an Altium Designer environment. If you click on File, New, and then you will be able to create a library. You have integrated library, schematic library, PCB library, database library, SVN, database library, and then you have the database link file libraries. So basically, schematic library at the simplest level, in the schematic library, which has the uh, format, it's schematic lib, which hold the component symbol and link all other models as mentioned in the first slide, including the parametric data, which will become eventually a component library. And again, this is the case only when you have file-based library or local-based libraries, and these kind of libraries are unmanaged. Now, the difference between managed and unmanaged components or library, it's the version control. So in managed component, you have traceability to the version and all the changes around happen to this library. Unmanaged component, basically you don't have version control and you don't have traceability to that unless you add it to version control. Now, the other point I would mention in here, file-based libraries are available for free. Now, server-based libraries, the first one we'll talk about Altium Managed Content Server. Now, these are free. You can access them from the Explorer panel, as we will see later on. But Altium Concord Pro Server, these you need to have a subscription. It's a special subscription you need to pay for. If you already have a Vault server subscription or Altium Nexus subscription, you can upgrade to Altium Concord Pro Server for free, so you don't have to pay for it. Now, the PCB library, it's storing the PCB footprint model. If required, also it include a 3D model, which is created from 3D body objects or a step model imported into a 3D body object. Now, the integrated component model or integrated library, as it's called, it's implemented through integrating the schematic and the PCB libraries. Now, the higher level component in this kind of libraries is modeled within the schematic symbol itself. And all other models are linked to the schematic symbol, including the PCB library, 3D model, simulation model, and supplier data and everything else, parametric data as mentioned in here. So this is integrated component, the integrated component model. Now all source libraries, symbols, and linked models are defined within a library package project, which is this is what you will see. It's library package project, which is sequentially compiled into a single file that is called integrated library. When you start creating integrated library, this is what you will see. You will see a library package that's hold a schematic library file and PCB library file. Whenever you are done editing and compile this for electrical rule check and design rule check, this will be turned into an integrated library, which is only a single file that include all these models. The advantage of combining into an integrated library is that all component information is available in a single portable and secure file. So in this case, you don't have to worry about anything. Once you create your integrated library, you can add components to it in the future or anytime, and you compile it. Once you compile it, it's a single container that is secured and portable. You can move it from one PC to another. You can put it on a network drive and try to link to it so you can use it from anywhere. For instance, my own integrated library that holds thousands of components is located on my company OneDrive. So if I am using my personal computer at home, I can point to it. If I'm at the company in the office, I can point to it. If wherever I am, I can point to it and use it at any time. And this is the most commonly used libraries among all PCB designers. I mean, for file-based library. Now, the other type of libraries are called database libraries. For database libraries, there are three different types of database libraries. You have the standard database library, which has a format db-lib, and also you have database linked library, which is we'll talk about it, and you have version control SVN database library. So this is database library, and this is has a version control database library, and all of these is still under file-based library. They are located on your machine or somewhere on your network drive. And these database libraries are often termed table-based libraries. All information for the component is stored in a format external to Altium Designer, such as ODBC or ADO or an Excel spreadsheets. And each record in the database represents a component storing all of the parameter along with their model links, datasheet reference, or other component information. So in this file or the database file, you will find only links and information about the component. So it will tell the footprint, this component will use this footprint, and this footprint will be located in this folder, and it will use this schematic symbol, and this schematic symbol is located in this folder. So what is the benefit of this? The benefit of this, you will have a record of all the components, and you can extend this record very easily, and you can reuse the footprint and the symbol in addition to the parametric data if needed. So if you have 2 resistors, or if you have 1,000 resistors are using the same symbol, so you don't have to create this symbol and copy it into the schematic multiple times to create new component, unless you are using the same component and you are trying to change the information or the part number for this component in your schematic. So this is very handy when it comes to database library. If the symbol is shared, so you can point to this symbol location, and you can only update the field related to the part number of that symbol or that component. So you can reuse all these, and it's more efficient. And even for the search, when it comes to the search and located component, is much faster. Now, database libraries are very, very efficient when you have a huge number of components. We are talking about 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 of components. These cannot be held within an integrated library unless you create multiple libraries. Usually they create, for instance, a library for SMD resistors, a library for capacitors when it comes to huge or large number of parts. Now, in addition to the models integrated in this library, the record for each component can also include links to inventory or other corporate components data. Now, as all the details that makes the component complete is stored inside the database library itself, the schematic symbol becomes only a graphical representation or simply another model. And now, in this case, the schematic symbol is no longer the container or the main part that links all other models. Basically, now the container is the database library itself that links all different models within one record. That's all different types of file-based library. And as I mentioned, the database library is the most widely used among all these. Now, each of the component storage system described so far requires you to organize all the various elements, including creating the models, components, library, managing their versions and history, and maintaining the connection into the supply chain. So everything has to be done manually. For this reason, these components are referred as unmanaged component because the software does not provide integrated support for all these tasks. And the task I'm talking about are organizing all various elements or model domains, managing the version control and history, maintaining the connection to the supply chain. So how we can solve this? In order to solve this, you need to switch into server-based libraries or what is called managed components. And for managed components, you need to use Altium Concord Pro Server, and which is I use in my company. So this is managed completely by your organization. You will have control over the versions, life cycles, supply chains, etc. That's why a managed component references all of the required design domain models with a visible and traceable history and life cycle, and is also coupled into a component supply chain, as we saw in the examples when we can clearly see the supply chain information when we search for a part in the manufacturing part search. Basically, the manufacturing part search is a kind of server-based library, but it's managed and controlled by Altium Designer only or Altium company only. You have no access over these libraries unless you download the component as we will do today and import that component into your library or your managed server, and then you will have a full access over this component. As for Vault, just a comment about this Altium Managed Content Server or Vault. These are indexed in the manufacturer part search. So you can, basically Altium includes a comprehensive, globally accessible, electronic, design-oriented data storage and access server system, which is accessed through the Explorer panel, and all that is basically indexed in the manufacturer part search. So this is one of the things I asked Altium a while ago in one of the webinar. So are all the components in the Vault server are accessible from the manufacturer part search? They said yes, and they are indexed over there. So you don't have to switch between the Explorer and manufacturer part search. When you do a search in manufacturer part search and you find model symbol, this symbol includes schematic and PCB model. That means this component is originally ported from or indexed from Vault server. So you don't have to worry about it. But we will do some practice today on that, just for the sake of trying the Explorer panel as well. Now when we talk about managed component or server-based libraries, Altium basically has more than 22 different types of items. So when you talk about a component, this is defined as an item in Altium Designer. Footprint is an item or a model. Symbol or every one of these is a model. So Altium defines 22 different model, and there is an associated folder type for that model when we talk about managed content. When you go to the Altium Concord Pro, if you have an access to it, you will see these the predefined folder that are associated with these items or content type. Now for each one of these items, there is an associated content type code. Now why I'm bringing this in here, and our discussion is basically not the managed component, we are talking about unmanaged component. The reason why when we go and download a component from the manufacturer part search or from Vault server or from the Explorer, or we go to Altium Live resources and to try to download a component or a library, and then we extract the components from this library, you will notice that the naming convention used for the footprints, components, symbols, 3D models will start with these content types. And this is where all these come from. So content types basically are predefined in Altium and used to store and represent different types of data. Now, Altium component creation workflow, there is no standardized way of creating a component in Altium Designer nor in any other PCB design software. But you need to know what are the best practices to create a component within the tool you are using. So based on that, based on my experience and best practices, I created this flow, and we will go over it in details today when we start creating a component from scratch. As you will see in here, you need first to gather component data, and then you go and create the library package project we discussed earlier that will be sequentially turned into integrated library after we compile it. And then you have the schematic symbol path, and you have the footprint model paths, and then you link all the components into the schematic symbol, including the simulation model, and you compile and release the library. We will discuss it in details later on, but this is just start. And before we have to go through this workflow, we need to try to find a library for the component we are looking for. So you always start by searching if this component is available or not. If not, then you need to try to create this component either by reusing symbols and footprint available from different vendor libraries, or create everything from scratch. And really, you don't have to create everything from scratch, because in 2% or 90% of the cases you will be able to find this component. But be aware that if this component is not from the manufacturer part search or from Altium contents, be sure or be careful about it before you use it. You need to do a check. You need to make sure that the bins of the symbols are correct, the mapping between the schematic symbols and footprint are correct, and the spacing on the footprints are according to the IBC standard, and so on. Because someone might create a component um, and there is no enough experience with the components library, and there is a major issue or problem with this component, and you come and use it in your design. When you fabricate the design, try to assemble the component, it's not fit, it doesn't fit well, or there is wrong mapping between the schematic pins and the footprint paths, and this will create a problem. You have to redo the work. So you need to verify any external library you are using if it's not coming from Altium directly. So let's take a look how we can find the components from different vendors. Now, Altium Designer components panel, this one, provides a powerful interface with which to interact with your components, and this is for file-based libraries only that are installed in your machine. And these are usually either database library or integrated libraries. If you create a database library or an integrated library, this is where you can access and find a component in these local libraries or file-based libraries. You cannot have access to these libraries from the manufacturer part search, because basically this is file-based library. Manufacturer part search panel is managed based libraries. These libraries are located on Altium server, and you have no control over these. You can download them, you can use them, you can try to update to the latest version of these, but you cannot control the life cycle of these or the version control of these. The second search is the manufacturer part search panel, which offers a sophisticated search feature based on categorized and parametric filtering that allow you to zero in on the exact manufactured component you need, in addition to select a preferred supplier of that physical part based on the cost and availability as well. Again, component entries listed with an associated symbol like I see in here are matched to the corresponding managed content in the Altium content vault. And Altium content vault was superseded by Altium Nexus, and both were superseded by Altium Concord Pro. And you really, if you are not working within large organization where you have a team and everything has to be managed through a server, and the project needs to be worked on by a team, and these libraries and project files are managed by PLM system, you don't have to use Altium Concord Pro. So manufacturer part search and component panel are more than sufficient for you, and you can do local version control for your project as we will see later. So this is why you don't have to go back to the Explorer panel in Altium Designer to search for components on the Altium Content Vault. So they are already indexed in here, and these are basically the ones with this model symbol next to the component. One point we can mention in here that each listed manufacturer part in the panel in manufacturer part search is associated with a colored strip. As you can see, this is colored strip next to it, next to the component. That indicates its functional suitability for use. So based on the part's deduced life cycle state. So for example, a component flagged as an obsolete will be color coded with red. So this component is an obsolete component. It's not recommended to use it at all, meaning the volume production for this component is short, and this component was replaced by a different component. Now the components that are flagged with green, these components are in production, and it's highly recommended to use them. Now you can also see that in the corner in here, as you can see next to the price and the stock available by this supplier, you can see also the color coded strip for this component, and if you hover by the mouse over this strip, you will get information about the life cycle state. Usually the life cycle state for a component start with draft. If you are creating a component, the first stage will be draft. Then once you are done creating the component, you transfer the component from draft either into prototype, meaning you are using this component in prototype before you test it, or you transfer it into production, which is green. Now, once you are done with this component and this component is no longer in production, or it's not recommended for new design, you transfer it into not recommended for new design, which is the orange one. And once this component is no longer in production at all and it's not available in stock, you can transfer it to obsolete, which is the red one. These are the life cycles for the component, and these also are controlled in Altium Concord Pro. You can have full access to these life cycles if you have Altium Concord Pro and you are creating components or projects as well. Now let's take a look at these two panels before we move to the next slide. Let's go to Altium Designer, and here let's open any project. We don't have to open a project, but let's create a schematic, just schematic sheet if you want to place a component on it very quickly. So you can access these panels from this corner. You have manufacturer part search, component, and the Explorer as mentioned, where you can have an access to Altium content vault. So let's start with manufacturer part search. These are managed base components as mentioned. They are located on Altium server. They are not located on your machine. That's why when you try to place a component for the first time, it might take time to grab the data and download the library into your temporary folder in your machine. So let's say I'm searching, let's search for instance, STM32F0. Let's see what microcontrollers we can find from this series. So these are the microcontrollers available from this series. Now, you can find the symbol in here, and that's mean This is matched to the corresponding managed content in the old or legacy Altium content vault. And they are indexed into the manufacturer part search. So where are these originally located in addition to the indexing within the manufacturer part search? Let me show you. So if you go to Altium, live Altium, and you go to the resources, on the resources go to the design content, and in the design content here are the libraries you can see. So if you search for STM32F0, and this is the library for this series, this, if you click on it, you can download, of course, library, or go to Vault and explore the library. And these are the components available within the library. If you click on any of these, here you can see the version control of it. And this is the component name or ID. And here you can see the component type code, the content type code or item type code. As we see, CMB is short for component, and this is a unique ID, and this is an incremental ID. Basically, every time you create a new component in the managed library, this ID will be automatically incremented. And here you can find information about it, and here are the linked model to it, revision models to it. So this is just where you can find these contents when we talked about it. Now, when you click on here, you can see the supply chain information about this component. Now, everything in green, you can see these are available, and the red ones for the supply chain, there is no stock. Now, but this is the color coded. Now, when you click on it, place, it will take a time loading. Basically, this will go to the Altium server, cloud server, and try to grab information about this component and download the library for it so you can have an access to it. Now, the problem with this, these information are real time. Now, if you don't have internet access, you will not have an access to this library or these components. This is the only problem about it. These are real time, and you need to have an internet connection and active license, of course, to be able to access these components or these libraries from the manufacturer parts here. This is the first one. Now, you have a filtering capability, as we saw in our last two sessions where we created the projects. You can filter out based on the supplier, based on if it has a model or not, and other parametric data related to these components. Okay, so let's go now to the components panel. So this is the components panel, and these are file-based libraries. They are located on your machine. Basically, you downloaded these libraries. Now, this is my company libraries. Close it. Now, these are the default libraries from Altium, and they are installed on your machine. And you can find the directory where these libraries are installed. So if you select this component and you can scroll down, and you can find the schematic symbol as well as the footprint. You can find the simulation model for this component. It's loading. Yeah, this is the 3D model for it. And you have a link for the manufacturer data, but there is no supply chain information about it. You don't know what is the stock for this, what the available. Of course, you can add these later, as we will see. So basically, you just grab it and download it. You don't need an internet connection for it. So where are these located? Basically, you can go to the settings, and on the settings in the system, you go to the default locations in here. So document path, library path, you copy this, and then go to the Explorer or browser, and you can browse into the folder. And here you can see that this is the first one and this is the second one. Now let me show you when we edit, for instance, this one. If you just drag and drop or open it, now Altium will ask you, do you want to extract this combined library, integrated library? Yes, extract sources, and you will see now the library package, which include the schematic symbol library and the footprint library as well. Here we go. Here. So this is the library package, lib package, and includes the schematic library and the PCB library. When you right click on it and compile it, this will be compiled into an integrated library and will be stored in the same folder. So if I click on it in here, now I have access. Let's see, if you go, you need to view the schematic library. This is schematic library. If you click on it, now you can see all the schematic symbols included within this library. So you can see these transistors, capacitors, diodes, thinner. These are different diodes and different things. And we will see here as well. So this is transistor, and this transistor, if you look here, there are models that are linked into this transistor. Basically, this symbol works as a container to link all different model domains related to this symbol. So here you can see the footprint. If you click on it, you can see it. You can see the simulation model, and you can see the signal integrity model as well. So if you click on the simulation model, you can see the simulation model for this, and netlist, and the model file as well. Okay. Similarly, you can go back to the PCB library in here. Click on it, and you need to go to the panel and PCB libraries. And now you can see all the footprints embedded within this PCB library. Different footprints, etc. Now, if you have to add a component to this library, you can start by adding, you go to the schema, we will see that. You can add a new symbol, and then you add a footprint or associate a footprint to this symbol, and once you are done, you compile this. So before we compile it, let me show you what happened. So when you clicked on this library, this folder was created when you extracted the information from this library. And as you can see in here, you will see all the simulation model. These are all integrated within this library, and you can see the PCB library and the schematic library as well. These are simulation and signal integrity models within this library. And now these all are managed by this library package. Now, when we right click on it, let me show you. Maybe compile. It's combining project, generating. It's generated and downloaded right away to Altium Designer. Now, yes. So this is the library that is being compiled, and is just now compiled and downloaded also to Altium Designer. So you don't have to click on it. So this is just quick view about these panels. Now let's take a look. So this is for the component, and we will see later how we can search in this component. So in the manufacturer part search, basically you click on here and you search for the component. You can filter in here, and also you can look at the category in here, because all the components are categorized. Now in the component panel, you need to select a library to search within this library. So this is not a global search. This is local search to the library that is being selected. Now, what if I want to do file-based search for all the libraries installed on my machine, or for all the libraries located on or within a folder that and not installed? You can go up to this command, click on it. Now you can click on file-based library search. Here, you get this panel, and this is in old Altium Designer. Now you can search within the name. This is the field. You can select a field to be the name, description, footprint, etc. So you have a long list of fields. These are the parameters. Now, contains, let's say, let's say if we search for 2n, contains 2n, only 2n. Now here you select, you are searching for component, footprint, 3D model, or database components. You can select that. So we are searching for component within available libraries that are installed already into Altium Designer. They are on your machine and installed. Libraries on BAS, they don't have to be installed on your machine. Maybe you have like a directory where you store libraries, and you can basically select this BAS and search within these libraries. You have a ton of libraries, but you don't want to install all of them, and you will search within these. Whenever you find the component, you can request, or Altium Designer will ask you, do you want to download this library because it's not installed? We find the component within this library, but it's not yet installed into Altium Designer. So you want to download this library, Altium Designer will ask you to do that. So for now, let's search within available libraries. So anything contains 2n is listed in here. Now these are in this miscellaneous devices, and these are in my company library, and these are in different libraries, as you can see in here. So you can pick up the components you want. Let's select this one. And here, wow, this is file-based library, and it's located on my machine, and I can see supplier, real-time supplier information about it, unit price, all parametric data, etc. And I created this manually from scratch. So how come we can find a supplier chain information about it? And I will tell you how you can do that today when we create a library from scratch, because you can do that. Now, this is just a quick view about it. We'll talk about how we can install library in a second. So this is for the component library. Now, the last one I would show is the Explorer. If you go to the Explorer in here, so basically you can grab it. Oops, not here. So basically, this Explorer, where you can have an access to the managed based libraries. So here you can see Altium Content Vault. I don't have another one. If I log in within my company license, this is university license because I'm teaching this course for university. Now, if I log in on my company laptop with the company license, I will see another option in here to access the content for Altium Concord Pro on my company. Now, but for now, it's Altium Content Vault. Now here, Altium Content Vault, we will see it. Let's switch to the slide. There should be a slide for it. Let me see. Yeah, Vault Explorer, you need to make sure in order to see this that Altium Content Vault option is active on your machine. So you need to download this plugin, and you go to settings, and in the settings in the system you go to where is it? Oh, data management. You have servers, and on the servers you expand this non-server, and this are for my company, as you can see. So it's on, it's active on. You can see it. If it's off, you won't see anything within this. So if it's off, let me show you what will happen. So nothing, you don't have access to anything. So when you, by default, this will be off, so nothing in here. So you need to go to the preferences. Under data management, you go to the server, expand non-server, and activate Altium Content Vault. So now it's connected. Okay, and you need to make sure that in order to access this information, you are signed in. If you go to the licenses here, you need to sign in into your Altium account. Now, the Altium content, you can see now there is board templates. You have components. If you open it, the model will include the PCB components and the schematic symbols as well. And again, while you still can use Altium Content Vault for now, it's advised that you use the far more powerful manufacturer part search panel. The panel provides the ability for you to search for real-world manufactured part by offering a sophisticated search feature based on categorized and parameterized filtering. So you don't have to come really to this panel, and Altium keeps this panel for a reason. They have a reason for that. It's a legacy, but they have a reason to keep it. So here you can see the board templates, and these board templates are not categorized in the manufacturer part search. Here where you can download the templates, it's only templates. So you have board to board connectors, as you can see, these components. And the second folder is unified components. When we talked about the unified components, components that include all the models. So you have, here are the components, and here are different vendors. And these are legacy libraries as well. So you have all these different vendors. So if you go, for instance, let's see if Texas Instruments among, oh, Texas Instrument or U-Blocks. This is very famous when it comes to wireless modules. So cellular modules, GSM, for instance, SARA-G3. Here you can find the schematic, and here you can find the photoprint and the 3D model. And here there is a revision state. As you can see, you have no control over it. And this is the revision ID, as you can see, CMB. This is the content type code. And then you have a unique ID. It can be a company ID, and then you have a sequential number. And then this one is basically the revision. Sometimes you see this 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, this is the first footprint, this is the second footprint, this is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. All these are different footprints, different models of the footprint. So depending on the data sheet, and the revisions basically is dash, and anything comes after the dash. So this is only the first revision. Maybe we can find a different component which has multiple revisions. Let me see if this one has different revisions, just to show you. No, it does not. So here for the photoprint, you see it start with PCC. If we go back to the slide, let's go back to the list. So photoprint, content type code is PCC, component is CMB, symbol is SYM. So let's go back in here. So symbol SYM, then you have a unique identifier, then they have a sequential number, and there is no version for that. The version is associated in here. So let me see if any of Texas Instruments, they are very active in the revisions. They update their component more often. So let me see, amplifier, current shunt monitor. So here, okay, so revision 1, revision 2, let me see if there is revision 3. So you can see it's -1, -2, this is the revision, basically. So now, can we use this component? Yes, you can just click on it. If you have, this is a library, so if you switch to the schematic, and let's go to the Explorer, right click, and you can say place, and you will have it in here. You can place it and you can use it, and you have real-time information. But again, in order to update the information for this stock availability, etc., price, you need to have internet connection. Now, can we find this component also in the manufacturer part search? Definitely yes. Copy the name of this component, go to the manufacturer part search, search for it, and it will come on the top of the list, because it's basically anything within Altium Content Vault is indexed in the manufacturer part search. That's why it's not recommended to go back to here. It's better to go here where you have advanced filtering capability and categorization for all these components. So you don't really have to go back in here. So can we download it from here? Yes, you can go to the operation and click on download, and everything will be packaged for you within a zip folder, and you can save it. And now you can go to the folder where this file is downloaded and view it. We'll see it in a minute. We'll talk about it in a minute. So same case in here, you can right click on here, or you come to the kiss command on the top on here. You can click on download, and this will be downloaded. So component is downloaded successfully. And same case for manufacturer parts, you can right click on it and you can click on download. So you will have the component installed on your machine. So let me see the download directory just to copy this download directory. Let's go there and see what is the content of this component. Here is the component. Let's extract this. So as you can see, you have the library package, you have the component footprint, and you have the component schematic, and these are managed by this library package. Basically, this is a project that will be compiled into an integrated library later on. If you want to create this one as a library by itself, not like copy these, we are gonna use these in a minute. Let's keep them in here. So let's go back to the slides. So we talked about the manufacturer part search, components panel, and also we talked about the Vault Explorer. You need to activate that. Now let's take a quick look. Now I just had these screenshots from a webinar I attended to explain. This webinar basically was talking about Altium 19.1 and Altium Concord Pro and the difference between different tools from Altium Designer. And this slide is very interesting because you can try to understand the difference between the manufacturer part search panel and the components panel. Again, the manufacturer part search panel is a kind of managed content panel or managed based component. The component panel is file based components located on your machine. Now here, this manufacturer part search panel is linked or connects into Altium Cloud services powered by Octopart. Now Octopart is basically a search engine for electronic components. Similar to Google, Octopart is a search engine that goes into the component suppliers like DigiKey, Mouser, Aero, Farnell, Future, etc., and try to locate parametric data about the component you are searching for. Let me show you Octopart very quick. So let's click on here, Octopart. This is the Octopart. Look at the categorization in here. It's similar to what you are seeing in Altium Designer manufacturer part search. Yes, because everything in here, you have 100,000 of components, even millions of components are within this search engine, and all these are made available in Altium Designer. Let's search for the component we were looking for. Let me see, what was the component? Search for the same component. So it's this guy. Let's search for this guy specifically. Oops, sorry for that. Here are the component. You can see that. So let's show all this component, this part number from Texas Instrument, and this is description of this component. And you can see the price for it, data sheet, and there is a CAD model which you have access to in Altium Design. If you click on the CAD model, this is the symbol and this is the footprint, and you can download the model for Altium Designer if you are Altium Designer user. In addition to that, you can download the model for OrCAD Capture, Eagle CAD Soft, and you can send it to UpConverter. There is another website, and here you can also find a 3D model step file for this. So let's go back. So here are the supplier, a component supplier. DigiKey has this model, and this is what you can see in here in DigiKey. So basically, just a quick comment about DigiKey. Why I can see 3 different part numbers in here, or DigiKey or supplier part number is called SPU, supplier part number, and there is manufacturer part number, MBU. So don't mix the two. Why I can see 3 different part number for the same component? Let's click on it. This is very important point when you deal with component suppliers. So if you go to DigiKey, so this is the DigiKey part number or the supplier part number. So you can see this is the supplier part number, and this is 1, and then the other one has a 2, and the third one has a 6. Basically the 1, this is a kind of cut tape components, you can buy as low as one piece. Now when you go to the, if you change this one to -2, this is a DG reel basically. So this is called, they have it somewhere. Oh, sure. So basically, yeah, 2 is basically stab and reel. So the minimum quantity for this, in order to buy, you need to go with the reel. So this one is 2. Yeah, the minimum you can do is 250. You cannot do less than 250. Now, if it comes with 6, this is a DG reel. If you need have pick and place machine and you need a reel on your machine, in this case you can buy as low as 1 and they will add it on a reel, but they will add a surcharge $7 for the reel fee. Basically you will have longer strip and you will have the extended tape to hook it to your pick and place machine. So if you don't want to buy like 10,000 piece, because the reel sometimes comes as a 10,000 piece, and you really need a reel where you place it on pick and place machine. And in this case, you can go with the DG reel. Mouser, they have the same thing as well. So let me show you component reel machine. This is the reel. This is what I'm talking about if you are not familiar with that. So here are the component reels. These are the components. This is a tab of the component, and there is a strip on the top of it, and it goes through the pick and place machine, and there is a head, robot head. Well, there is a video, yeah, of course, in the first session, I provided a video about that. You can see it, where the component will go into this component strip and pick up the component and place it on the board. Okay, so this is just quick information about the component when you go and try to source component from DGKey. Let's close this. So this is the Octoparts. All of these information are made available in the manufacturer part search panel. All these are the supply chain information, prices, available stock, minimum order quantity, as you can see in here, and different suppliers as well. Now, based on the suppliers, when you go to the manufacturer part search in here, you have this settings, part provider preferences. Here, based on what you enabled for the suppliers, you will see the results in here. So I only selected couples. I'm interested in only couples. They are located in United States only. I'm not interested in any component supplier located outside of Canada, America, United States, and I need the currency to be in US dollar. And usually I try to locate component with Allied Electronics, DGKey, Mouser, Arrow, Avent, Future, Farnell, etc. So only you will see results from those selected supplier, nothing else. Okay, I think that is enough. I'm getting too deep into the details. We don't want to do that. Most probably I will have to split this session into multiple sessions. But let's move forward and see where we are at. So this is the Octopart basically. So when you click on the manufacturer part search panel and search for a component, Altium will try to go into the Altium Cloud Server, locate this component and all models, parametric information, and grab it into the manufacturer part search panel. Now, when you click on the place, all this information will be placed in real time into your schematic or layout document where you can use it. And now on the other hand, the component, there should be an arrow in here placed into your design similar to this one. It's missing in here. Now, in the same time, you can download or acquire this part you search for and copy it into your own file-based library, integrated library, database library, or schematic or PCB library, or copy it into your managed based library like managed component server as we saw in here. So I can go back to Altium Designer. For instance, this component, I can right click on it. I can download this component. Or if I go to manufacturer passage, right click on it, I can download this one. Now, This download is basically you are downloading this component for file-based library. Now, how we can take this component into a managed based library, you need to acquire this component. Now, why this option is not available? Because I don't have a managed library. It's not active. I did not activate the managed library in here. So if you go to the servers, these are the managed library for the company. I did not activate these because I'm using now educational license on my university machine. So this is where you can acquire basically all the information for this component. Will copy it as it is into your managed component server. And now when you copy it into managed component server, you have a control over the life cycle of it, the revisions of it, and everything. Now, so component panel, in the component panel, you will search within the file-based libraries in addition to your managed component server. You can go, as we saw in here, if I go to the component, here, this is basically, this is the managed library, managed based library. It's on server, it's not connected yet, so it's offline. So if I click on the component, you will see here, let me see, this is an old, but it's okay. So it's offline mode. Cache data is being used because I downloaded this component before that. I right clicked on it and place it, so all the information that being cached are still in there, so I can use it, but there is no real-time information about it. So you don't see any supply chain information, anything at all. It's offline. I have no access to the version control of it. I don't know if this component is obsolete or in production or in prototype mode or still draft. I have no information about it. I need to connect to the server to get information about it. So this is why we see it in here. So you can access your managed component server from the components panel. You don't have access to it from the manufacturer part search panel. These are the two differences between these two panels, and eventually we'll be using these two panels only. You don't have to go back and use the Explorer at all, not at any time in the future. Now, this is also an interesting slide. So if you look at the components panel, what is the component panels for? And this is what they were advertising. So you can access local libraries if you have local libraries, or you can download libraries from online. There are tons of library. When you go to vendors, you can find integrated libraries only. They don't give you access to managed based library because the managed based library on local server, and this is a secure server. No one outside the company should have an access to secure server. So let's say if you go, for instance, let me show you example. Let's say Worth Electronics, Altium library. For instance, they have a ton of libraries. This is very powerful company with a lot of libraries. So these are the component libraries. They have component libraries for OrCAD, Altium, Eagle, even for simulation models. I use them all the time. I like to use these. So if you click on Altium Designer in here, and here are the libraries, tons of libraries. I know what are they for. So if I go, for instance, and search for a connector or inductors, transformer, let's see something very quick. EMC, signal communication, signal transformer. Let's see. This one, anything, just random. Now, if you scroll down, now, okay, this is LAN transformer. For networking, I can go down. There is a download in here. So you can see Eagle, library component, Altium, and look at the format. It's integrated library at the end. And it's revision 19A. So I click on it. I agree. And I will download this library in here. And we will install this library later on. So this is library in here. We have an integrated library. We just can click on it and Altium Designer will ask you, do you want to extract the sources of this library or you want to install this library into the system? Now let's do extract, and we can install it later on, and we'll see it under the components as well. So what was the name of the library? Just to make sure that, so this is Altium WELAN. Okay, so let me put this back in here. So we extracted that. This is Altium WELAN. So if you click on this, you will see the schematic. Okay, let's put it in here. So these are the schematic symbols, and they are linked into a model in here. And here you can see all these schematic symbols and the associated model with that. And if you click on the 3D, you will see 3D model for that. This is a 3D model. Very nice. But there is no supplier information. You can add that. You can add supplier information to this. You can search for it, and you can add supplier link and supplier information in real time. So we'll see that in a minute. Okay. So if you go back to the PCB library, here you can see the PCB library and the PCB components. So why this one is not? Okay. Let's put it back to the center. Move it out. Place it at the top. PCB filter. Okay. Everyone is ducked in vertical mode. So PCB library. So this is the PCB library, as you can see in here. Now, if I need to install this one, you can go back to the original file and click on install instead of extract, or basically you can right click on it, compile, and now you will see it in the components panel when it's done. So it's compiled. If you go to the component, now click here and go down, Altium WELAN integrated library, and you can see it in here. Now, where else can I install the libraries? You can go into the preferences and basically search for library. It's very handy. File-based libraries, and these are the installed library in your machine. So this is one of the library. If I don't need this library anymore, basically I can deactivate it, so you no longer see it, but it's still on your machine and you can come back and activate it again, or you can remove it completely from your machine, and that's it. Okay, it's gone. It's no longer in here. It's gone. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Too much. Let's see, where is it? I think I'm lost. Yeah, this one. Okay, so you have parametric search, as we see. So performance optimization, offline mode support. This is what good about it. It's offline. You don't need to be connected on the internet to use this library. So also detailed page, you can download dynamic data like this, as we will see when we create a component from scratch. But again, in order to update this dynamic data, you need to be connected to the internet. And you can compare other they did some improvement on it. So let's go and take a look at the manufacturer part search. So they advertised access globally electronic parts supply 100 million plus parts. This is huge. This is really huge. Focus on manufacturer part instead of legacy supplier-oriented search. So the component panel is basically, this is vendor or supplier part search, and it's legacy, and these are integrated library or database libraries only. And usually all the vendors supply you with integrated library. They don't provide a database library. Also, database library, they were used by companies only, not vendors. So if you go to Worth Electronics, Texas Instrument, ST, other U-Blocks, they will give you integrated library, not a database library or managed based library. It's just integrated library. You can download it. Now, if you need these components within this library or some of these components within this library to be managed by your managed based library, basically you can copy them. We will see that. So, and etc. They have these features. You can go over these and take a look what they are advertising. I don't want to spend time on this slide. It's just for your reference, but it's very interesting. So this is for the manufacturer part search. So focus on manufacturer part instead of legacy supplier-oriented search. Improved searching capability, yes, because you can have parametric search with categorization. This is very powerful. And content improvement, ECAD model, yes, when you look at this symbol in green, this is a content model or ECAD model, electronics computer aided design model for you. In addition, you have life cycle information about it, manufacturer life cycle information and version of it as well. And also, whenever one of these is updated by Altium, Altium will tell you, the software in here will tell you, oh, this component was updated. In order to generate the files, you need to update the component before you do that. And the ERC and DRC engines on Altium Designer will give you an error because you cannot compile the project if any of the components you are using from the managed base library is not up to date. So you need to make sure they are up to date. So updating these components is just one click, etc. Okay. So we talked about the Vault Explorer, and now let's start doing some demo. Now in the first 3 demos, we will learn how we can extract and reuse components from available libraries from different vendors or from legacy libraries, etc. So we just did extracting schematic symbol and footprint from a library. Now let's see how we can copy and reuse these symbols and compile them. Let me show you. It's very easy. Let's go back to Altium Designer. So let's say we have this component. Now let's say I want to use this one. So let's search for this one. First thing we need to do, let me reorganize these windows. Okay, schematic filter. Just move them out and tag them again. Okay, in the vertical mode. So we go to the schematic library in here. And if you don't see schematic library panel in here, you go to the panel in here, click on schematic library and it will show up. Now, basically, let's search for this symbol on DGKey website. So go to DGKey and search for this symbol. And let's make sure that, okay, so here. And there is not of parametric data around it because it's new. Let's find an old one because I need some parametric information about it. This one is not available. Properties. Okay. Not a lot of parametric data, but it's okay. So now what you need to do, let's say you are searching for this component in here and you can find it in the manufacturer part search, but where is the problem? There is no model. You need to create a model with this. And how can I create a model? Let's say I have no information, no idea about this library. So in this case, I need to go and create a library from scratch because there is no library for this. Let me close this free document. We don't need it. And let's close this library because we are done editing this library. Okay. So there is no model. So what can I do about it? So you need to create a model from scratch, and we will see how we can do that. But before we do that, you can search if there is a model available online for this component, and you can start. We will see that. We'll talk about that in DGKey. So there is no model in DGK as well. Only this manufacturing CAD model, STEP and IGS, these are 3D models for this component. These are just 3D model, and you will need to use these models. So there is no model. What can I do? You can go start by creating this component in a library. Let's assume that you don't have an integrated library. If you have an integrated library, basically you can go and open it and add this component to it. But let's start a new library from scratch. You go into new library, integrated library, and then right click on it, add schematic library, and go back to the project and right click on it and add PCB library. Now let's create a library by reusing symbols and footprint from vendor libraries. This is what we are trying to do right now. I don't know why they are not. Okay, sorry, three. Okay. Explorer, I don't need the Explorer in here. So, okay, so we created a new integrated library and we added schematic and PCB library into it. So the first thing you do, you go into the schematic library. This is the first thing you do. This is the schematic library. And you add new components. Let's say this component, give the design item ID is the part number. You need to make sure that the design item ID is the part number. Or you don't have to do that at all. You can go back to the manufacturer part search. See the trick. This is the trick. Right click on it and click on import into schematic library 1.schematic library as this. Look what will happen now. If I click on it, it came up in here. Look, you have supplier link, you have parametric data and supplier information, data sheet, etc. Now if I go, let me see the properties for this. You will see the part number, you will see description, you will see link, but there are no models. If you click on parameters, you will see all the parameters. The first thing you need to hide is the supplier part number. I don't care about it, and the description. And the second thing you need to do now is basically the designator. This is a transformer. Now you need to understand the component designator. For transformer, you use T. And now for the auto incremental number, you use a question mark. Now this question mark will be replaced by a number when we do annotation for the schematic symbol, as we saw in the last two sessions when we annotated the schematic. Now for the comment, usually I highly recommend to use the part number as a comment. Don't use anything else. Now this is done. Now I have the component. Let's delete this initial component that is not used. I have my first component with description. You can see in here. Let me expand this with description. And you have also the supplier information, the price, and we'll get information about the available quantity, supply chain. And here you get all the information about the price, available quantity. And these will try to connect to the supplier and try to get this information in real time. We will see it. So this is done. This is the first step. Basically, you imported all the parametric data into the schematic library in one click, just one click. Right click on it, import. Everything is gone, is moved to here. Now the next step, you go to the vendor library, and this is basically the components I want. So copy this symbol, select all, or you can go to edit, select all, edit, copy. Now go back to your library in here and edit, paste, and place this component. My recommendation for placement, in order to be consistent, try to place the edge of the component in this corner in here. Now this will guarantee consistency. All the components, when you move them around and copy them or create them, the top left side of the component, make it to be into this 0, 0 reference point. So now this is the schematic. Now what we do for the photoprint, you go to the schematic of the symbol, look at the associated photoprint with this symbol. It's basically has the same part number. This is nice because this is easy. So just copy the part number, go to the photoprint of the vendor, search for it, and here we go. Copy, go back to the your PCB library and paste. Here is the symbol. You can remove the default component because whenever you create a new library, schematic or library, there will be like a default component because it cannot be empty. And this is the component. Now go back to your schematic library and click on add a photoprint, browse, and it's not showing in here. The reason why, because these library are not saved. You need to save them. So let's close these. Let's save this. Let's save it. Let's create a new folder in here and call this my lib. And let's call this, for instance, my library. My library. Okay. Now you need to save also inside my library the schematic library. Let's give it the same name. You can give it any name. It's not necessarily. So library package and photoprint, everything is saved now. Okay. Very good. Now we can add now the photoprint into it. Browse. You can see it will come up in here. This is the photoprint, and you only have one photoprint. Now you don't have. Okay. Click on it. It will come in here. Now look at the bin map. Now let's sort these. 1 will be connected with 1, 3 with 3, 2 with 2, 14. They are mapped correctly. You can verify that they are mapped. Now click OK. Now they are linked. This is what I'm saying when we say models are linked into the schematic symbol when you talk about file-based libraries. Now this library is ready. It's still not yet in the components, but if you search for it in here, it's not there. This is a new library. It's my library. So I can go back to the project, right click on it, compile. So yes, I would save everything. It's done. If you click at the messages, compiled successfully, no error found. And if you click on the components now, go all the way down, my library, integrated library in here. If you click on it, there is only a single component in this library, and you can see the supply chain information and all the parametric data, in addition to the models, phootoprints, supplier link, and part choice are available, and these will update in real time as long as you have internet connectivity. If you don't have internet connectivity, you don't care about it, but it's on your machine, it's your own library, and it's created very efficiently, very fast. So you can basically, if you copy and paste, you can create component in a couple of minutes. It won't take a long time. So that's it. Now what if we would only add parametric data to an existing library, like this library in here? So if we can go to the same component we copied in here, and basically this one, okay, it has part number but doesn't have component supplier information. So what we can do about it, you can go to the manufacturer part search, and it's in here, doesn't have a model. So just open the schematic library for this, select the component from here, go to here, right click on it, and now you don't need to import new part. And the reason why you can see 2 between two parentheses is that this means that the part exists. So you only need to add supplier link and parameters to this existing component. So click on that only. So as you can see here, it came up. Now you have real parametric data for this component, and it's updated. And if you go to the properties in here, you can see you have component supplier information. And if you go to general, you have data sheet. And here you have all the parametric data you need for the supply chain. So now if you compile this library, it will be installed into Altium Designer integrated libraries, and this component is already updated. So you don't have to create new libraries, you just updated the library. That's why this is the difference between import into a library as a new component or just add supplier link and parameters into an existing component. So this is the difference. So the first one is basically you are adding the link, supplier link, which is this one without any extra parameters. So this is very, very, very handy. So this is something nice to learn and to use as well. So as long as the component exists and you don't want to move it into your own library, you just need to update it in here, and that's it. You just import the supplier libraries, supplier links and parameters. So the third one is basically how we can extract components library from reference design projects. In many cases, you will try to find like a symbol or a footprint for a specific component, and there is no library for that, but there is this component was used in one of the reference design projects that has a source made available for public. Yeah, this is something you can find with ST Electronics Company or Texas Instrument and so many other companies. You can find the reference design project. You have access to the Altium design files for this project. And let me show you an example. Now let's search. Let's go to Altium. Let's close this library. We are done with this. And also let's close this. And let's keep our library in here. We need to add components to it. And let's close this in here. We are done with the Wars Electronic library. So this is only our library. Now let's search for a component. Let's assume that we need ADC8885, which is a digital converter from Texas Instrument that has 18-bit 1 megasample per second. This is powerful ADC. Now you can see this component exists, but it doesn't have a model. We need to create a model. If you search online for a model for this, it's really hard to find, and there is no library provided from Texas Instrument for this component. And if we take a look at this component, let's go to let's search for this component online, and let's see it on Texas Instrument website. So let's take a look. So this is the component, and if we can look at the schematic symbol and footprint for this component, we can take a look at. So this is the footprint. It's not complex. It comes either in it's 10-bin package all the time, so it's VSSOP or SON package. Now this is much smaller than this, so it's just 8-bin. It's easy to implement. This we'll implement this one as well. So this is easy to implement, and for schematic symbol, this is what you need. So you just need to define these pins, and let's take a look at the footprint. Footprint usually comes at the end. If you go to the end of the data sheet, you should be able to see the footprint. So the VSSOP is 1.1 millimeter height, maximum height. And as you can see, the spacing from lead to lead is around 5 millimeter max. Now, when you see these two values, This is the maximum and this is the minimum because you need to account for tolerance on the size. Now, if you look at the pitch between two leads, it's 0.5 millimeter. So this can be considered as fine pitch chip. And this is for the VSSOP, and the other one is for, yeah. So this is for basically for the land pattern. If you recall in lecture 2 or session 2 when we talked about the difference between footprint and land pattern. And we will do a quick review for this today as well. So this is the land pattern when you want to implement footprint by yourself. And this is the other one. This is the V-sun. This is 1 millimeter maximum height. As you can see, these are the bins. And here you have the EBAD. So this is a smaller component, in fact. So it's 3.1 millimeter by 3.1 millimeter and 2.9. This is the minimum maximum. The component itself, it should be 3 by 3 millimeter. But these are the maximum and minimum boundaries given that there is a tolerance on the size of the component. And the spacing between, it's also 0.5 millimeter spacing. It's also same pitch. But now the spacing from here to here will be different because this is 3 millimeter. Now, this is a component and we need to find a library because if you look at this, it might be a little bit challenging to build this. It's not so difficult. It's feasible. It can be implemented, but it's better to find a library. So there is no library so far for this. What you can do, you can look for a reference design. There is a way for that either from the component page itself, or if you can go to the TI reference designs page. Here you can find reference design. If you put the component name, search for it, and here you can find the reference design for this. So you have enhanced accuracy, battery fuel gauge reference design for low power industrial Internet of Things field metric. So if you look at this, you can see you have schematic CAD files. CAD files meaning design files, but you need to make sure that this project was implemented using Altium Designer because all the projects at this page or in the IT reference designs used to use ORCAD. TI used ORCAD long time ago before they moved to Altium Designer. Now the tools used at TI is Altium Designer for PCB design. So what you can do to check that, you can open Schematic, and if you are familiar with how the schematic looks like in Altium Designer, you will know that this is Altium Designer design. So you know that this was built in Altium Designer. And now you go to CAD files, download that, download the file, extract everything, and these are the files. Now you can see there is no library in here. You only have the design files, but you can open this in Altium Designer. Let's open this project. This is the project. Here we go. So we have power, MCU. Here we should find the digital analog converter. Here is the digital analog converter, and if you double click on it, it says the source for this one, the library is called Texas Instrument pre-release 1.integrated library. They are using integrated library, but this one is not in your system, and you can know that from here. Once you see unknown, that means this library doesn't exist. But the information about this library is already embedded inside the design file. So what we can do about it, basically you can open the layout. Let's wait until it comes up. Okay, here we go. This is the layout for it. And then you go into the design, make integrated library. This is the magic. Click on it, wait for a couple seconds, and it should be, let's close the PCB filter. Still working. Let's wait. Okay. Still compiling the library. And here we go, it's done. Let's close this. So here you'll see there is a new folder with an integrated library in here. And this library should include all the schematic symbols in this project, in addition to all the associated footprints in the same project, nothing else. So if you extract the source, if you right click on it and click on extract sources, you should see the library package project in here. Here we go. So it's library package project, and this is the schematic, and this is the footprint. Click on the schematic library. Now you can go to the schematic library in here and search for the component TAS ADS. Okay, here is the component, and this is the schematic. If you click on it, and there is a footprint associated with it, and there is also, as you can see, 3D model. So you have parametric data, but there is no supply chain data. So one thing you can do, right click on it, copy, go to your library now, paste, you have the component now. And you can see this one, but this one is not yet copied into, that's why it's not updating in here. This is for the other component. What you need to do, you go back to here. So what is the name of this component? It's DRC0010D. Now you go to the generated PCB library and try to find, let me, okay, PCB library, project, PCB library, SPR, this is the footprint, copy, and you go to your footprint library, paste, it's in here now. Let's go to the, let's close this library. We are done. We copied the components we want. Now you can find the other components in the same project in this library. Basically, this library is like an integrated library for the component used in that project. So if you want to transfer this project, this is good way to make a portable library, or you can generate the library later as well. So let's close the project. We are done with that. Okay, we only have the our library. So here you can see the library, and you can see now the footprint. Oh, we need to save the library. That's why it says save your library. Now if you go back, okay, here we go. The footprint now exists, and here is the 3D model, and now the component is in your library, your own library. Now what we need to do is to add the parametric information in here. So just select that in your schematic library, go to the manufacturer part, right click on it, and only import the link and parameter to the component you just copied. That's it. You can see now the parametric data, and if you go to the properties, now you can see the parameters updated, and you will see DG key and the part number for DG key, and everything is updated. And now this has dynamic parameters, and you just copied the component from reference design library. This is how you can do it, and this is very efficient and very fast. Now this is a description. You can remove it. You can go to the properties, just select the component, go to the properties, parameters, and here click on description. I don't want to see the description, and I don't want to see the supplier port number. So these are not important. Now, if your library, as we said, need to be consistent, so you need to place these components to this coordination. Just move it, select everything and move it, save it, and now you can compile your library. It's ready. Right click, compile, make sure there is no error, and it's compiled successfully. And now if you go to the components, select your library, my library, you can see the new component in the library. And here you can see dynamic data about this component in addition to the schematic and footprint model. So this is something very efficient. You can do it in a couple of minutes as well. So let's go back. So we learned how to reuse component from libraries. What about analog Altium Designer legacy libraries? Now let's take a look at these libraries. If we can go to the browser, I have one page open for that here. Sorry for that. Okay, so we are done with this. I will keep this one if you want to create this component or the other footprint. Okay, so here are the Altium Designer. If you go to this link, so Altium Designer, basically these are the old libraries used in Altium Designer, but sometimes they might include footprints you can reuse. So basically you can download all of them and take a look at the content of these libraries. These are different vendors. And there is a footprint, for instance, this PCB. This might be useful for you if you want to something pre-created, like pre-footprints. Let me show you. This might be handy sometimes, well, not all the time, because the IBC footprint wizard is very advanced, and you can use it to generate any footprint in Altium Designer. So PCB, this is just footprint. So these are according to the ECE5973-Session, and these are the footprint, and this is for discrete component, and you can see these are surface mount. Once you see chip, that means this is surface mount. So you have resistors, you have inductors, you have capacitors, and recall the LMN, minimum density, nominal density, and these are the different IBC density standard. And as you can see, these are for SOT23. These usually are diodes or transistors and so on. So you can find a lot of libraries in here. And let's take a look at one of these libraries. So let's close this. And you can just drag and drop in here. So this is the library. So this is BGA library, BGA component, as you can see. So all these are the components. They are pre-created. Also, they have like a simple 3D model. You can just copy and reuse these, and we will see how we can create these from scratch. But these are called the legacy libraries for Altium Designer before they do the vault and the manufacturer part search panels and the IBC footprint wizard. So it's just something to mention for you. So we are done with this. Let's move to the next, how we can download and import ECAD models. Now, in addition to these integrated libraries, there are websites that provide ECAD model for like 100,000 of components. Let's take a look, starting with the Snap EDA. Let's switch to DigiKey and search for a model. let's say we are looking for ESP32 model, which is Zigbee Bluetooth wireless module that has been very famous. So let's click on it in here. So let's go with this one. Now if you scroll down a little bit, you will see here ECAD CAD model. So it says there is a model, but it's by Snap EDA. If you click on it, it will take you into Snap EDA website. Let's wait for the page to load. And here we go. Of course, you need to have an account, and it's free. You don't have to just create an account. So I'm logging into my account in here, and here you can see the module. This is powered by DigiKey, and this is the schematic symbol, and this is the photo print. And if you click on the 3D model in here, you will also find a very nice, well-created 3D model for this component. This is neat. This is very good. It's an excellent. So what you can do basically, if there are different versions of this, you can find them in this drop menu, but there is only one version. So you can download the photo print only, or if you need the schematic symbol and photo print, you can click on download symbol and photo print, and now you can select the ECAD tool you are using, and in our case it's Altium Designer. So download, and here you don't have to go to DigiKey. So basically you can search for any part in here. So let's say LM324. This is just an example until we extract this folder. So this one. Now when you click on here, when you see this one, that means it has a photo print available, and this one means it has a symbol available. This is a data sheet available, and this is a 3D model available. And here, if there is a simulation model, you should be able also to download that. So this one looks good. If this one looks good, it has all the models you need. You can go to it, and if you click on the 3D model, this is a 3D model for the chip, and all that is free. You can download that, and now you can download that and import that into Altium Designer. So how we can import that into Altium Designer? And just one comment before we switch to Altium Designer. So this part was created using ECE5973-Session standard, and it meets the standard required by the standard for the photo print or schematic symbol design. So this is very good. You don't have to verify it if it meets the standard or not. So basically when you download from Snap EDA, you will get a file format. It's called LIA, and this is a BCAD software. So how to import that? If you are doing that for the first time, you just click on the link how to import, and it will take you to Snap EDA and guide you through the process. Basically, as I said, is this LIA. It's BCAD type file. You can go to Altium Designer. Let's go back to Altium Designer and do the import. So you go to File, Import Wizard. Give it a second to load. Let's see where is the directory. So the directory is here. Let's copy this directory. Next. Now you need to select BCAD design and libraries files. Next, skip the first one. Here, if you have a BCAD design file, schematic and layout, you can import them. Next, here you have BCAD libraries, as you can see in here. Now you can add this. This is the library we want. Open. Next. So open libraries as an integrated library or database library or controlled vision database library. We need it as an integrated library because we need to copy this component into our own library. So next, now you can continue with that. You can explore these later. So if you have, it's just for the naming format or naming scheme, just keep the default. Next. Now this is to generate error file, warnings, and events, and etc. Just information. And these are now, you can see the layers. Now, if you are using different layers, so one will be transferred to the top. This is Altium side, this is BCAT side. So the naming scheme for the layer between these two software is different. So 1 represent the top, 2 represent the bottom, 6 represent the top overlay, which is the component outline, 20 mechanical layer 4, 21 mechanical layer 16. So you can change this one. You can pick a different mechanical layer, but let's keep the default for now. And this is what you will see. So you will see schematic library in this name and PCB library, Altium PCB library in this name, and this will be under this package, library package. Next. Finish. And now we can open this library. You can see here, integrated library, open, and we need this, open. Okay, so schematic library, you can see that if we open panel, schematic library is still coming on the top for some reason. Okay, let's go. This is the component. Basically, we can copy this, we can go to our library, we can paste this component in here. If we want to modify it, for instance, if we want to move everything, we can do that. If we need to keep the same coordination. Now, if you want to use, for instance, it uses line in here. Let's remove these lines, and we need to keep consistency where Altium uses this kind of rectangle, yellow rectangle. So place rectangle, start from here and all the way, move it up, and we need to expand it. Then you need to send it backward. So edit, move, send to the back. Click on it, and it looks like Altium symbol. Now this one is saved. We go to the symbol here, copy, go to our footprint, paste one component, and here is the footprint. And this footprint doesn't have 3D model yet because you need to download this 3D model separately. But it's okay. Let's go back to the component, go to the 3D model, download 3D model. And this is the 3D model. Download it, go back to here. Now click on place 3D body, and it's in the download folder. Okay, looks like it's rotated. Let's click on tab, 90 degrees on the XY. So we can position it now initially, then we can adjust that here. Okay, now let's take a look in the 3D view if this is correct or not. Yep, looks correct. So this is a 3D model. Okay, 2 looks good. Now let's close this library. We are done with it. And let's close this library also. So ESP, we are done. We covered the components we want from it. And this is our library. We can let's go to the schematic symbol, make sure it's linked. So this one, there is no preview because we have not yet saved this one. Now you need to save this. Now if you go to the schematic, and you can see now the photo print in 2D and 3D. Now this component doesn't have supplier information, so what we can do about it, it's basically simple. Copy the part number, go to the manufacturer parts here. So to copy the part number, just double click on it. The properties panel will open. Copy, switch to the manufacturer parts here, click on it. Let's expand this a little bit. So this is the component, right click on it, import. Here you can see that now it's imported. You have the supplier information about it. And that's all we need. Now you can go back to the project, compile your library, save, yes. Now it's done. If we go to the component, switch to our library, my library, and this is the component I want. And you can see the supply chain information about it. Model, if you expand the model, you will see the schematic symbol and photo print. And if there are any references, you can see also the web page. Okay, now let's try Ultra Librarian. Need to go back to DigiKey. Let's search for any component, for instance. So let's take a look at this. Download from Ultra Librarian. Ultra Librarian is basically a database library for from DigiKey. So they created libraries for the component they source. So if you click on it, it will take you to the Ultra Librarian website from DigiKey, as you can see here. So you have the schematic symbol, photo print, 3D model is missing. You can download it from different place. So here you can select the component. But before we do that, let's take a look at the website itself in here. So you can download libraries. So build better product faster with access to free symbol footprints and 3D model. So you can see that they support Altium, CADNES, KiCad, OrCAD, Mentor Graphic, Zukin, and different tools. It's not just Altium Designer, so they support all these different formats, and they are fine. Okay, they have a lot of components, so over 20,000 download months plus parts per month. Oh, they add 1,000 component, 100,000 component, new component every month. This is a huge. So let's search, let's see if we can find this ADC in here. I did not give it a try. Oh mine, you can find actually schematic symbol, footprint symbol, and 3D model for this component. This is really interesting. This is really interesting. Oh wow. So there is a model for this, and there is a footprint, and also there is a 3D model for this. So what you need to do is to download that, and here you can select, we need a 3D model in step format, and we need Altium Designer. We can download BCAD or Altium Designer format. Altium Designer, you need to do script to import the files. BCAD, you can do the same LIA file to import the same way we did for the Snap EDA. So log in to download. Let me log in. So we logged in. If you don't have an account, you need to create one. It's for free. So let's go back. Step Altium. I'm not a robot. Download. Let's download that. This tutorial, you can take a look at it. Extract the folder. Let's see. So this is the step file. This is a 3D model. It's good. We will need it. We can do. This is the BCAF format. And this is Altium Designer. It's Pascal script. It's a project script. You can use it. So if you are new to it, you can click on onboard guide. It will tell you how to do it. But let's now do the BCAD model. It's same thing. It's maybe faster. Let's switch back to Altium and file, import wizard. So next, we select BCAD design and library files. We don't import design. We're next to the libraries. Now we can add the source library. This is the file. Next, 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 next. So this format. Now you can see there is a schematic library and PCB library next. Okay. Finish. So we got a schematic library and PCB library. Let's open these two. So as we did before, we go to the schematic library and we need to copy this symbol. Copy. We go to our library, paste the symbol, and if we need to do any modification to it, like, okay, we need to move it to reference point in here, and we need to change this standard drawing by the yellow rectangle like that. Don't forget to move this back. Edit, move, send to back, click on it to move back, and we don't need this because this is included, so we can save this now. And we need to add, there is no supplier information about it, so basically just copy the name to the manufacturer part, click on it, right click, import supplier link and parameters to this component I just created, and now it's updated. It's very fast, very quick. Now we are done with the schematic library. Let's close it. We need to go to the footprint library. Just copy this component. You have a lot of mechanical layer information. What you can do, basically you can delete these. You really don't need them. So copy, go to my library, paste one component, and this one still doesn't have 3D model, so we need to place a 3D model. Remember, we had 3D model as a step file in this folder. So place 3D body, navigate to the folder, open, and you need to rotate on the x-axis. As you can see, it's rotated. So hit on the tab, it will pause and show the properties for this component in that is active. So this is 0, you see. Once you click on it, now you can try to align it, and it's better aligned if it's orthogonal. So if you go to 3D view, oh, you don't have the capability here, you need to put, okay. So, and what layer do you want to use for the 3D model? Usually better to use layer 13 for that, because all other libraries using layer 13, and we'll talk about that in the next session. So click on it. Now if you go to the properties of view configuration and click on orthographic, so you can see if they are aligned or not. So what you need to do is basically you need to align it, but if you move, here we go, just drag and drop it, it looks well aligned, and you can take a look at it. Maybe the standoff height is not right. You need to go to the properties for this, double click on it. There is a standoff 7 mil, I don't know why. 0, it's now sitting on the right height. There should be no standoff heights in this case. It looks very good. It's aligned. We have 3D model. We can save it. Now we can go to, this is my lab. Let's close this library. We don't need it. We save this one, we can go to our library. Here we can see the model and the 3D model for this component, and we have it now. Now this, again, double click on this component, you see the properties, go to the parameter, hide the description, and hide the supplier part number, and it's ready to use. Now this is how you can import from Ultra Librarian. So download and use Altium Library Loader. This is interesting. I think this is the last one before we move to create a component from scratch. So I'm gonna put create a component from scratch on a separate session because this session is long enough to call it a session. So we will stop at this point, but let's cover download and use Altium Library Loader. So let's go back to our browser. So let's close this, or we can go here. So if you navigate to componentssearchengine.com, there is another website called Altium Designer Library. It's also a search engine for components where you can find a symbol, footprint, and the 3D model, and you can import that into Altium Designer. Now this only supports Altium Designer, nothing else. So all that you need to do is to download. There is like a plug-in or add-in tool. You can add it to Altium Designer, and you can download it from this link. And this shows how you can install it, and it will come on the file menu. You can see this plugin will be added into Altium Designer, where you don't have to go to the external website like here and try to search for a component to use it in Altium Designer. In M3, let's search for this. Okay, so here you can see there is ECAD model and there is a 3D model, and this one different footprint. You can see all different kind of and format of LM324, the OBM, the quad OBM with different footprints. Some of them is through hole, some of them are surface mount with different packaging. So let's say we want to select this one. So you have 3D model, and you have also, this is a data sheet. You have here, you can see, so you have a symbol, footprint, and you have 3D model for that. So all that you need to do is to click on free download. So of course you need to sign in. You need to have an account and sign in into this. So I signed in. It's free. You can register for free. Save. Now click on it. Extract that. Here we go. It's Altium. So extract the file. You can see the file you want to download. Copy the link. You go to Altium Designer. File. After you install this symbol and footprint in here, you can see it. So either you open the model from here, a schematic document must be open to select before. Oh, okay. You need to create schematic, basically. It's fine. A schematic document, okay. Oh, not search open. It's creating the model for you. It's very interesting because it's script based. So this is the schematic symbol. Drag component. Okay, so if you drag, go down, and this is the component. So basically what they did, they created a library, and this library include the model with different footprint format. So this is the library they created, and also a schematic library. So the component LM This is the component they created. You can copy it now into your library, and so it's, and this is the footprint. And in the same time, they added this component into the schematic. So if you double click on it, general, you will see the footprint, 3D model, item ID, and everything. So this is one way to do it, to download the files. The other one, as long as you have this tool, this loader installed on your system, you really don't have to go and download the file. Basically, you can search for it in here. Now all these, you have all these and all of them. So this one doesn't have 3D model. It has a symbol and has a footprint. This one has symbol, footprint, and 3D model. So what you can do now, you can add it to the design if you want to use it, or you can download the ECAD model for this and add it to your library. So if you click add to the design, basically this library will be added into it, like a local library for this loader is called SAMAC-SYS, and this is the library for this loader and its local library. And here is the component again in different format. Let's close this one. And now all that you need to do is to copy the component. This is the component we created, and copy the footprint for that component into your library. Or you can keep this library, which is local library for this loader. This is the library for this loader, and you can compile it. You can combine it and use it as it is. So this is the other way. So there are several options to do libraries or create a library without going and create everything from scratch. So far, we have not created any symbol or any footprint. We are just trying to use whatever there to build a library. But don't forget, whenever you use something created by someone else, make sure that to do review and verify that this component is valid. Don't just take it and use it as it is without verification or without a review. This is not safe at all. And you might end up redoing PCB fabrication because you will discover that the footprint is not up to the right scale. So don't go that route. Okay, so I will stop at this point for today, and I will carry on the creative component from scratch in session number 7, that will come up very soon. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you soon.